Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about sound design. I'm David Faltzgraff, the founder of SundaySounds.com, and I'm here with our sound designer Ryan Wuso. How's it going, Ryan?
Pretty good.
So we're just sitting on the couch here. We've been shooting video content today, talking about how to underscore under live worship and prayer. We've been talking about how to prepare your set list for worship, and one thing that we haven't talked about much today yet is sound design. And we just launched Sunday Keys version 2 for Mainstage last month. And so we've never done more sound design in a short period of time than we did in that small window. It was just a massive amount.
Brutal amounts of sound design.
Ryan was such a huge, vital part of this process of making sure that Sunday Keys 2 just sounded good. Like no matter what you asked it to do, it would not sound good. So I always think it's really interesting when I run across people that are seasoned sound designers to sort of get a peek into like what that process of getting started looked like. Mm-hmm. So in this video, we're just going to share a little bit about kind of what inspired us initially as sound designers, and hopefully give you guys some really practical tips and inspiration on ways that you can sort of start to test the waters if you don't consider yourself a sound designer, or you feel overwhelmed or don't know where to begin, or even if you've been doing it for a while but you want to take some of your workflows and processes to the next level. So this will be pretty practical, pretty laid back. So how long have you been designing sounds? Like how did you get started?
I want to say probably about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
I got started because I needed a sound, so it was a really practical sense. It wasn't something
like something for church?
Exactly, yeah. So long story short, I wanted a warm pad sound, and I couldn't find a warm pad anywhere. There was no Sunday Sounds to go to grab. There's no like collection of sounds. So my keyboard at church had this really nice warm soft pad on it, and
like a hardware keyboard.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So I couldn't use that at on my own keyboard. So I wanted to create that same sound in software. Mm-hmm. So with my limited knowledge of like EQ and filter, and I think I knew like the basic principles of an envelope.
Yeah.
I set out. I went to church and I recorded a few chords.
Really?
Just playing,
From the hardware.
Yeah, like
just like MP3 or something.
Exactly, like straight up MP3, brought it into iTunes, and then I was like, I'm gonna make this sound. So I think I had Omnisphere, and I pulled that up, and I had like a stock, like I think it was like a sine wave, and I notched.
From the very beginning.
It was scratch, and I was like, I'm gonna make this sound like this.
Cool.
So it was a really like take A, make it B. And
how'd it go?
It took hours, and it was literally, like I said, it was just EQ and filter and amp and envelope, and it was, but at the end, I actually I got it. I was pretty happy with it, and I put it out on Facebook. And some people picked it up, and they were like, "Yeah, this sounds great. I'm gonna use this as a go-to pad."
Oh, that's so cool.
It was a cool thing. But
yeah, I remember when I first started using Mainstage, I had a patch that I built for my own worship team for Alive, because like that record had just come out from Young and Free, and it was not a great patch, but I guess like people were really looking for ways to play that song, so I put it out online too, and it took me forever to do. I'd been using, back in high school, I got a MIDI keyboard that had Ableton Live 8 Lite, which had like an 8-track limit, and I used it for recording projects like in my bedroom and stuff. Mm-hmm. That was my first experience in like any sort of DAW environment or anything. Yep. And then when I went to school after high school, I used Reason for a year. I got really into Reason, which I still actually really love. I love the rack back end of it, which it's like I was a pedal nerd, like a guitarist, and I really resonated with the plug digital pedal here and a digital rack there and stuff. So that was fun. But then I kind of like took several years off of really doing any sound design at all. Mm-hmm. And then I led worship at a church plant, so it was like acoustic guitar and like percussion, maybe like a little keys. So there was no like synth. Yeah. And there was like some period of time there too where like a lot of worship music wasn't very synthy. It was like more of this like acoustic driven, like big boomy kick foot stomping stuff vibe that happened for a few years. And so I was kind of in that zone. But then my wife and I moved back to Iowa, and I got a job at a church where I was in charge of the youth worship band, and that's when like Young and Free was like, hold up, it's a rave now. Yeah. And so that's when I was kind of forced like to like reconnect with the synth stuff, and and I always thought it was so fun. So
youth group is always great to experiment with new sounds.
yeah, you can get away with a little bit more.
For sure.
So I when I got main stage, I spent a bunch of time in the stock presets, just starting to like turn knobs, because I didn't. In Reason, I mostly just worked with like the front end of stuff that was already sort of done and kind of stitched it all together.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I approached main stage at first too, was like what's already in here. I mean, there were thousands of presets, and that's why it took me so long, because I was so thoroughly going down the list of presets to try and find stuff.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of your initial exploring in Omnisphere?
Yeah, it was more Omnisphere, because at the time, main stage was still out, and I had main stage, but it wasn't considered like. People hadn't really tapped into main stage and seen that it could be like this great sounds, because main stage has all these great possibilities, but it doesn't give them to you as like a worship keyboardist. It's got just so many. I mean, you can find like is it Warm Carpet or
Blue Carpet?
Blue Carpet. Like that's like a worship.
The worship pad.
The worship pad.
Main stage, yeah.
But there wasn't as much as was I could find in Omnisphere. So I did start there. Since I've moved now it's mostly main stage.
Yeah, same for me. But so did you do like a lot of preset tweaking?
Oh yeah.
Or you said like the first time you started from a sine wave. That's like a brutal task to give yourself right from the very beginning. Like you can't get more fundamental. Like literally can't get more basic.
At the beginning, I didn't know that I almost thought like preset, like going to presets and like manipulating was like cheating. But since I've way changed my mind, I heard kind of a quote, which I'd butcher to say exactly, but the premise is that like creativity and things you make, it's rarely at all you're pulling it out of like from scratch or thin air, and it's mostly like you're taking things that you've already heard or that you've seen someone else do, and then you're understanding that, and then you're kind of shooting off that in your own way. And so that's what I love about like preset tweaking is you're taking, like if somebody wanted to make warm pads or soft pads, they could go and find either a Sunday Sounds preset, a main stage stock preset, whatever.
So on Omnisphere or whatever.
And learn how, like, why is this a warm pad? And they could dissect, like, oh, they have this EQ on it, they have this reverb on it. Yeah. So that's definitely the way to go is, looking at stuff that's already been done and pulling out of that.
Right, and like main stage and Omnisphere make it pretty easy, because you can, like, there's power buttons for, like, bypass buttons for almost everything. So I spent a lot of time just like, like click, 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 like turn this off, turn this off, turn this off, and then turn them all back on and like try and hear the difference. Or I just like copy and paste a patch and then brutally mangle one of the two copies and then just go back and forth and hear like, okay, what's better about this? What's worse about it? Spent a lot of time doing that. So I do think if people are like very intimidated and don't know where to start, I wouldn't tell them to start with a sine wave.
Yeah, don't do that. And I just want to say too, like I had said, like people thought that patch was cool. I listened to it years back. It's terrible. It's like it's got like all like 40, 60 hertz, like.
Pretty booming.
It's terrible. So I guess that people are nice, I guess to say, but it'll work. That kind of stuff works. But definitely, like it's a progression over time. Like you're not gonna. Yeah. It's just that's one of the I guess I'd say key principles is you got to invest a good amount of time tweaking and looking at presets and learning before you start to get a place where you're like, this is super solid.
Do you write stuff down, or did you write stuff down?
I tried to remember as
like principles or things that you were like, I really like cutting this frequency for pads. Or like
I should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found myself reinventing the wheel over and over because I wasn't really like documenting, or even like. Guys, I am notorious for like desktop full of stuff, document folder full of stuff, cloud storage full of stuff. I would email myself stuff. And so like I would find like, even I'd make a patch for a specific song and then I would lose it somewhere on my hard drive because I didn't have any structure. I wasn't taking notes. I wasn't saving things with like good names or to specific like intentional places. So I would come up with a pad I really loved. I'd like really dial the EQ in for like even for the specific church venue I was at when it was like youth worship, because they had a pretty gnarly sound system, like needed like some very specific EQ treatment. And I would really like, oh, this is like finally sounding nice. Yeah. And then I would lose that patch forever, and then I'd be in church the next week trying to like capture that again, and I would just like have to do the exact same work over and over because I wasn't like I had no strategy for
Yeah.
archiving the things I was learning. Once I figured out how to save Omnisphere patches well, where to put main stage files, once I forced myself to not just put everything on my desktop in perpetuity. Like if it's a project or whatever, I'll put it there while I'm doing that project. But then once that project is done, put it in a folder and put that folder somewhere. That made a big impact on me. I finally felt like I started to retain the work I was doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Still a struggle though sometimes.
Oh yeah, I've got a few desktop 1, desktop 2, clean me, sort me folders. But that's huge. I was so bad I didn't even export my patches for the longest time. I had them in and I didn't even name them right in main stage concerts. It would just be like use this for Sunday backup, use this for Sunday backup too. And so I'd have to go on Planning Center and go back in time and find okay, we played this song on this date, and I need to find the concert file from that date and then pull the patch out of it.
Yes, yeah. I've totally done that.
So
too.
bad.